The Galactic Academy of United Species was the largest school in known space. It floated in the dark emptiness between three star systems, far from any planet or sun. The station was home to 10,000 students from hundreds of different worlds. Some had scales, some had wings, some were made of gas and light. They came here to learn, to train, and to become the future leaders of their species. Instructor walked into Lecture Hall 7 with slow, tired steps. He was tall and thin, with silver scales covering his entire body. His eyes were yellow and narrow, and when he spoke, his voice carried the sound of someone who had given the same lesson too many times. "Today we study a small entry in the Galactic Records," said. He touched a button on his desk and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a small blue planet with white clouds and green land. Planet designation, Sol 3. Common name, Earth. The 300 students in the hall barely looked at it. The insect-like beings with hard shells and clicking jaws made sounds of boredom. The hollows, creatures made of floating gas, drifted near the ceiling and paid no attention. The massive beings with skin like stone sat in the back and talked among themselves. In the middle of all these aliens sat one human girl. Her name was Park. She was 20 years old with black hair tied back and soft brown eyes. She wore the same gray uniform as everyone else, but on her it looked different, wrong, like she did not belong. And that was exactly how everyone treated her. Was the first human accepted to the Academy in 30 years. Earth had joined the galactic community 4 decades ago, but humans were not respected. The Galactic Records listed them as Category 7, the lowest rating for intelligent species. It meant they were weak, primitive, and unimportant. They had no natural weapons, no special abilities, no advanced technology. They were soft and fragile, easy to hurt and easy to kill. The Academy had accepted only because of political pressure. Some council members thought it would look good to include a human. Others wanted to study her, like a strange animal in a zoo. No one expected her to succeed. No one expected her to matter. Continued his lesson. Earth was contacted 42 standard years ago by a survey ship. Initial scans showed a primitive species with basic space travel, limited healing abilities, and extremely short. The average human lives only 80 standard years. A student made a clicking sound that meant laughter. 80 years was nothing. Most galactic species lived for centuries. Humans were given provisional membership in the Galactic Union, said. This means they can travel and trade, but they have no vote on the council and no military rights. They are considered guests. The word guests was spoken with clear disrespect. Kept her eyes on her desk. She had heard all of this before. Every day at the academy reminded her that she was less than everyone around her. The other students did not talk to her. The teachers did not call on her. When she walked through the halls, people moved away like she carried a disease. But she never complained. She never fought back. She just watched and listened and learned. What the Galactic Records did not say, what no one in this room knew, was that Earth had chosen to appear weak. 42 years ago, when the ships arrived, Earth had just finished its Third World War. Millions had died. Cities were destroyed. The survivors looked up at the alien vessels and felt afraid. Not because the aliens might attack, but because humans understood something important. Strength attracts attention, and attention brings danger. So Earth's leaders made a decision. They showed the aliens exactly what they expected to see. Weak bodies, simple technology, a harmless little species on a small blue planet. The aliens scanned them, classified them, and moved on to more interesting worlds. It was the greatest act of survival in human history, and it worked perfectly. Thought about this as talked about Earth's primitive culture and limited potential. She thought about her grandmother, who had been alive during first contact. Her grandmother had told her stories about what humans really were, persistent hunters who could run for days, healers whose bodies could repair terrible wounds, fighters who could ignore pain that would kill other species. Humans have one interesting feature, said, interrupting her thoughts. They produce a chemical called adrenaline during moments of danger. It makes them slightly faster and stronger for short periods. However, this is common among prey species and is not considered remarkable. Another click of laughter from the said nothing. She had learned long ago that arguing was useless. The galaxy had made up its mind about humans, and one student would not change that. The lesson continued, showed images of Earth's animals, its oceans, its mountains. He talked about human history like it was a children's story, simple and unimportant. The other students grew more bored. Some fell asleep. Others talked quietly among themselves. No one noticed the small warning light that blinked on the environmental panel near the door. No one felt the faint vibration that passed through the station's walls. No one saw, on the security screens that no student could access, the small black ship approaching the academy with its weapons powered and its shields down to avoid detection. The ship carried a single passenger, an assassin named. He had 4 arms, each one trained to kill in a dozen different ways. He had been hired by enemies of the Galactic Council, and his target was in Lecture Hall 7. Instructor, son of a council member, worth a fortune in assassination fees. Checked his weapons one final time. 4 plasma pistols, fully charged. One shot from any of them would burn through flesh and bone in an instant. Even the strongest species could not survive a direct hit. He smiled beneath his helmet. This would be easy. Back in the lecture hall, Park watched the hologram of Earth spin slowly above the projector. She missed home. She missed the smell of rain, the sound of birds, the feeling of real sunlight on her skin. Here, in this cold metal station, surrounded by aliens who saw her as nothing, she sometimes wondered why she had come. Then she remembered she came to prove something, not to the galaxy, not to the academy, to herself. She was human, and humans never gave up. The warning light blinked faster, the vibration grew stronger, and somewhere in the walls of the station, alarms began to sound. The lesson was about to be interrupted. The explosion came without any warning. One moment, instructor was talking about Earth's primitive farming methods. The next moment, the reinforced window behind him shattered into 1,000 pieces. Glass flew across the room like deadly rain. The sound was so loud that many students screamed and covered their ears. A small black ship had crashed through the station's wall. It was barely larger than a transport pod, designed for speed and silence. Smoke poured from its engines as it came to rest among the broken desks and scattered equipment. Chaos filled Lecture Hall 7. The students scrambled over each other, their hard shells clicking as they rushed toward the exits. The hollows scattered like frightened clouds, their gas bodies spreading thin as they tried to escape through any opening they could find. They stood frozen, their stone-like brains too slow to process what was happening. Park did not run. She dropped to the floor behind her desk and watched. The door of the black ship opened with a hiss of compressed air. A figure stepped out, tall and covered in dark armor. It was a species known throughout the galaxy as the deadliest assassins for hire. This one had 4 arms, each holding a plasma pistol that glowed with deadly energy. This helmet turned slowly, scanning the room. Then it stopped, pointing directly at instructor. Stood behind his podium, his silver scales now pale with fear. His yellow eyes were wide. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. He was a teacher, a scholar. He had never been in danger before. He did not know what to do. Of the council family, the assassin spoke through his helmet. His voice was cold and mechanical. You have been marked for death. Your father's crimes against the Outer Rim territories will be paid in blood. Please, whispered. I am not my father, I have done nothing. Your blood will send a message. The assassin raised one of his pistols. That is enough. Watched from her position on the floor. Her heart was beating fast, pumping blood through her body at an increased rate. She felt the familiar warmth spreading through her muscles, the warmth that humans called adrenaline. Her grandmother had told her about this feeling. It was the gift of 100,000 years of evolution, passed down from ancestors who survived by running, fighting, and never giving up. Her body was preparing itself, but for what? The assassin's finger tightened on the trigger. Did not think, she did not plan. Her body simply moved. She pushed herself up from the floor and ran forward. The world seemed to slow down around her. She could see the plasma bolt leaving the pistol, a bright streak of white-hot energy moving through the air toward the instructor's chest. She could see the look of terror on his face. She could see the other students frozen in fear, unable to move or help. She reached out her hand and caught the plasma bolt. The energy burned into her palm like fire from a star. Pain shot up her arm and into her shoulder. She could feel her skin blackening, her nerves screaming, her flesh cooking from the inside. But she did not stop. She did not let go. She absorbed the shot's momentum with her body, her feet sliding back across the floor and leaving black marks on the metal. Then she stood still. Smoke rose from her closed fist. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. Every student in the room had stopped running. Every alien eye was fixed on the small human girl standing between the assassin and his target. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The silence was so complete that could hear her own heartbeat. Then she opened her hand. The skin of her palm was destroyed, black and red and raw. But as everyone watched, something impossible began to happen. The burned flesh started to change. New skin grew over the wound, pink and fresh. The blackened parts fell away like ash. In seconds, her hand was healing itself, repairing damage that should have been permanent. The assassin stepped back. His helmet moved from his face to her healing hand and back again. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never felt before: confusion. "What are you?" he asked. Did not answer. She was too focused on the feeling inside her body, the rush of chemicals, the surge of strength, the strange calm that had replaced her fear. This was what her grandmother had described. This was what humans really were, hidden behind their soft skin and short lives. The assassin recovered quickly. He was a professional, trained to adapt to unexpected situations. He raised all 4 pistols and fired at the same time. 4 plasma bolts screamed toward. She moved without thinking. Her body twisted sideways, letting the first bolt pass by her head so close she could feel its heat. Her arm came up to block the second bolt, taking the impact on her forearm and ignoring the burst of pain. She stepped forward into the third bolt, letting it hit her shoulder and trusting her body to heal. The fourth bolt she caught again, crushing the energy in her fist like a ball of paper. She kept walking toward the assassin. His weapons fired again, and again. Each shot either missed, was blocked, or hit flesh that simply refused to die. The human girl absorbed damage that would have killed any other species in the galaxy, and she did not slow down. She did not stop. She just kept coming, step by step, closer and closer. The backed away until his armored back hit the wall of his crashed ship. He had no more room to retreat. His pistols clicked empty, their energy cells drained from continuous fire. Stood in front of him. Her uniform was burned and torn. Her skin was marked with wounds in various stages of healing, some still raw, others already covered with fresh pink flesh. Blood dripped from her arms onto the floor. But her eyes were calm, her breathing was steady, her voice when she spoke was quiet and controlled. "Drop them." The assassin's hands opened. 4 pistols clattered to the ground. Behind, 300 students stared in absolute silence. Instructor had fallen to his knees, his silver scales trembling. They had stopped their escape and now stood frozen in the doorways. The stone faces showed something that looked like fear. The door burst open and Academy security rushed in, 6 armed officers in full combat armor. They stopped immediately when they saw the scene. A human female, barely adult by galactic standards, holding an assassin by the throat with one hand while her other arm finished knitting itself back together. The security captain, a large named Solon, lowered his weapon slowly. He had served in 3 wars. He had seen many impossible things, but he had never seen anything like this. "Someone," he said carefully, "needs to explain what just happened here. Release the assassin and let the security officers take him." She turned to face the lecture hall, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes pressing down on her. They looked at her differently now, not with disgust or dismissal, with something new. Fear and curiosity, and the first small seeds of respect. A student in the front row finally broke the silence. His translator crackled as it struggled to find the right words. "The galactic records say humans are fragile. Category 7. No natural weapons, no regeneration, no enhanced reflexes. The records say you are weak." Looked at the alien. Then she looked at her healing hand, watching the last traces of damage fade away. She thought about her grandmother's stories. She thought about Earth, waiting silently among the stars, hiding its true strength behind a mask of weakness. "The records," she said slowly, "only know what we chose to show during first contact." The silence that followed was the loudest sound it ever heard. News of the attack spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. Within an hour, every student on the station had heard some version of the story. An assassin had attacked Lecture Hall 7. Instructor had almost died. And a human, a Category 7 human, had caught a plasma bolt with her bare hand and survived. Most students did not believe it at first. Humans were weak, everyone knew that. The galactic records were clear. But then the security footage began to spread through private channels and shared by students who had been in the room. The video showed everything: the attack, the plasma bolts, the healing flesh. It showed a small human girl walking through gunfire like it was nothing more than rain. By the end of the day, Park was the most famous person on the station. She sat alone in the medical bay, waiting for doctors who did not know what to do with her. A nurse had tried to treat her wounds, but there were no wounds left to treat. Her body had healed everything. The burns on her hands, the damage to her arms and shoulder, the cuts from flying glass, all of it was gone, replaced by fresh pink skin that looked like it had never been hurt. The nurse had scanned her 3 times, unable to believe the readings. Then she had called her supervisor. The supervisor had called the academy's chief medical officer. The chief medical officer had called the station commander. Now sat on a metal bed, surrounded by aliens who stared at her like she was a dangerous animal that might attack at any moment. "This is not possible," the chief medical officer said. He was unnamed, with gray stone skin and small black eyes. "Human biology does not allow for this level of regeneration. The records are very clear." "The records are wrong," said simply. "Records do not make mistakes. We scanned your species during first contact. We documented everything. Humans have no special healing abilities. Your bodies are fragile. You age quickly and die easily." Looked at the large stone alien. She was tired. The healing had taken energy from her body and she had not eaten since morning. But she knew this moment was important. For 40 years, humans had hidden behind a mask of weakness. Now that mask was broken, and she had to decide what to reveal. "Your scanners," she said carefully, "showed you what we wanted you to see." The medical bay went silent, leaned forward, his stone face showing something that might have been confusion. The nurses stopped their work. The security guards at the door tightened their grip on their weapons. "Explain," demanded. Took a deep breath. She thought about Earth, about her family, about all the people who had worked so hard to keep humanity's secrets safe. Was she about to destroy everything they had built? Or was she finally going to show the galaxy what humans really were? She decided to tell part of the truth, not all of it, but enough. "When your survey ships arrived at Earth 42 years ago," she began, "we had just finished fighting ourselves. Our third great war had killed millions. Our cities were destroyed. Our people were broken and afraid. She paused, remembering the stories her grandmother had told her. We looked up at your ships and we saw two possible futures. In one future, we showed you our strength and you saw us as a threat. You would have watched us closely, controlled us, maybe even destroyed us before we could become dangerous. In the other future, we showed you our weakness and you saw us as harmless. You would classify us as unimportant and leave us alone. His black eyes narrowed. You chose to appear weak. We chose to survive. Met his gaze without fear. Your scanners are very advanced. They can read biology, chemistry, physical structure, but they cannot read intention. They cannot detect lies. When your scientists came to study us, we showed them only what we wanted them to see. We hid our strongest people. We pretended our medicine was primitive. We acted confused by your technology. The regeneration, said slowly. Your healing abilities, you hid this. We hid many things. Held up her hand, the same hand that had caught a plasma bolt just hours ago. Human bodies are designed to survive. We evolved on a planet where everything tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the water. We learned to heal from wounds that would end other species. We learned to keep moving when our bodies wanted to stop. We learned to fight through pain that should have made us fall. She stood up from the medical bed and faced the room full of aliens. You classified us as Category 7 because that is what we showed you, but the truth is different. Humans are not prey. We are predators. We hunted animals larger and stronger than ourselves for thousands of years. We ran them down over days, chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion while we kept going. We survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, and wars. We survived because we never gave up. The security guards shifted nervously. The nurses backed away from her. Even made of living stone seemed uncomfortable. Why tell us this now? He asked. Because you saw, gestured toward the door, toward the station beyond, toward the thousands of students who had watched the security footage. The secret is already broken. Everyone knows something is wrong with the records. You can try to hide what happened, but rumors will spread. Questions will be asked. Lies will eventually fall apart. She sat back down on the bed, suddenly feeling very tired. I am not authorized to speak for Earth. I am just a student. But I can tell you this. We did not hide because we were planning to attack you. We hid because we were afraid. Afraid of being used, afraid of being controlled, afraid of being destroyed. We wanted to be left alone to grow and learn and become stronger in our own time. A soft beeping sound came from his communicator. He looked at it, his stone face showing surprise. The station commander wants to see you, he said, and there is a message from your planet, from Earth's government. They are sending someone to explain. Nodded slowly. She had expected this. Her actions today would have consequences beyond anything she could control. Earth's leaders would have to decide how much more to reveal. The galaxy would have to decide how to react. But for now, in this moment, she was just a tired girl who had saved her teacher's life and accidentally changed everything. The door opened, and two more security guards entered. They looked at her with the same mix of fear and curiosity that she had seen in everyone since the attack. Please come with us, one of them said. The commander is waiting. Stood and walked toward the door. As she passed, the stone alien spoke one more time. The record said humans were nothing special. The record said you were forgettable. Stopped and looked back at him. Maybe that was the point, she said. In a galaxy full of powerful species, the safest place to be is wherever no one is looking. She walked out of the medical bay, leaving behind a room full of aliens who were only just beginning to understand how wrong they had been about humanity. Outside in the corridors of the academy, students stopped and stared as she passed. Some whispered to each other. Some pointed at her healing hands. Some simply watched in silence, their alien minds trying to process what they had seen. Ignored them all. She had bigger problems now. Somewhere in space, A ship from Earth was already on its way. And when it arrived, the galaxy would learn just how much humanity had been hiding all along. The tribunal chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It sat at the heart of the academy, a massive circular space with walls made of dark metal and a ceiling that stretched so high it disappeared into shadows. Hundreds of seats rose in rings around a central platform, each one filled with an alien official, military officer, or academy leader. Light came from glowing panels that floated in the air like captured stars. Stood on the central platform, feeling very small. Admiral presided over the emergency session from a raised seat at the front of the chamber. He was even larger than from the medical bay. His stone skin was dark gray, almost black, and cracks of orange light glowed from deep within his body. He was one of the most powerful military commanders in the Galactic Union, and his eyes, small and burning like embers, were fixed directly on. "You will explain," he rumbled, his voice echoing through the chamber, "how a species classified as physically inferior performed feats that rival our most enhanced combat specialists." Beside stood a nervous young man in a formal suit. His name was, and he was Earth's diplomatic representative at the Academy. He had arrived at the tribunal just minutes before it started, his face pale and his hands shaking as he reviewed files on his. "Admiral," began, "Earth's government has been informed of today's events. A full delegation is on its way and will arrive within." "I am not interested in delegations," Admiral interrupted. "I am interested in answers. This human girl caught a plasma bolt with her bare hand. She survived wounds that would kill any known species. She displayed combat abilities that do not appear in any galactic record." His burning eyes moved too. "I want to know how, and I want to know now." Felt the weight of hundreds of alien stares pressing down on her. She was tired, hungry, and scared. But she also knew that this moment, this conversation, might be the most important thing she ever did. The words she chose would shape how the galaxy saw humanity for generations to come. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "Our people made a choice 42 years ago. When your survey ships arrived, we had just finished our Third World War. We had seen what happens when the strong dominate the weak. We had lived it. Millions died because powerful nations fought for control, for resources, for pride. We nearly destroyed ourselves." The chamber was silent. Every alien in the room was listening. "So when we looked up at your ships," continued, "we asked ourselves a question. What happens to strong species in this galaxy? We searched your records, we read your histories, and we found our answer." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "Strong species get noticed. They get recruited into military alliances. They get sent to fight in wars that are not their own. They become tools for powerful governments, weapons to be used and thrown away. We saw this pattern repeat throughout galactic history. Every time a new species showed strength, they were absorbed, controlled, or destroyed." A murmur passed through the chamber. Some of the aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Earth wanted no part of that," said. "We had just finished one terrible war. We did not want to be pulled into others, so we made a choice. We decided to appear weak." Stepped forward, his projecting images into the air above the platform. They showed human soldiers, athletes, doctors, and scientists, but not the images from galactic records. These were different. They showed humans running impossibly long distances. Humans lifting weights that should have crushed them. Humans healing from injuries that should have been fatal. "Humans evolved as persistence predators," explained. "On our planet, we did not have claws or fangs or armor. We could not run faster than our prey or overpower them with strength. Instead, we chased them, for hours, for days. We ran until they collapsed from exhaustion, and then we killed them. Our bodies are designed to keep going when everything else stops." More images appeared. Medical scans, biological data, chemical analyses, all classified information that had never been shared with the galactic community. "We heal faster than your records say. Not as fast as what you saw today, that was extreme, triggered by massive trauma and adrenaline, but fast enough to recover from wounds that would permanently damage other species. Our bodies produce chemicals during danger that increase our strength, speed, and pain tolerance. We can ignore injuries that should stop us. We can keep fighting when we should be dead. Admiral leaned forward in his seat. If this is true, why did our scanners not detect it during first contact? Because we controlled what you scanned. Met his burning gaze without looking away. We selected the weakest members of our population for examination. We gave your scientists access to our oldest, most primitive medical facilities. We pretended to be confused by your technology when we actually understood it better than you expected. Every reading your scanners took was exactly what we wanted you to see. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted questions, demanded explanations, argued among themselves. Admiral raised one massive stone hand, and silence fell immediately. You deceived the entire Galactic Union, he said slowly, for 40 years. We survived, corrected. We did what we had to do to protect our people, just like every other species in this galaxy has done at some point in their history. A long pause followed her words. Admiral's burning eyes studied her face, searching for something, lies perhaps, or fear. He found neither. What else have you hidden? He finally asked. Hesitated. This was the question she had been dreading. How much should she reveal? How much did she even know? Earth's government had secrets even she did not understand. Technologies, weapons, plans that had been developed in silence for 4 decades while the galaxy ignored them. I am not authorized to share that information, she said carefully. I am just a student, but I can tell you this. Earth has spent 40 years watching this galaxy, learning from it, preparing for the day when our secret would be discovered. She looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at her. We never planned to hide forever. We knew that eventually something would happen to reveal what we really are. We hoped it would be on our terms at a time of our choosing, but we also prepared for moments like this, moments when circumstances forced our hand. Beeped. He looked at it and his face grew even paler. Admiral, he said quietly, the delegation from Earth has arrived. They are requesting immediate entry to the chamber. Admiral nodded slowly. Let them in. The massive doors at the far end of the chamber opened. 4 humans walked through, 3 men and 1 woman, all wearing formal black uniforms that did not recognize. They moved with confidence, their steps perfectly synchronized, their faces showing no emotion. The woman leading the group was older, perhaps 50, with gray hair cut short and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She walked directly to the central platform and stood beside. Admiral, she said, her voice clear and strong. I am Director of Earth's Galactic Relations Bureau. I apologize for the delay in our response. We came as quickly as we could. Director, Admiral's voice was cold. Your species has much to explain. We do, Director nodded once, and we are prepared to share information that will change how this galaxy understands humanity. But first, I must ask, what happened to the assassin who attacked our student? He is in custody. He will be tried for attempted murder and terrorism. Good, Director looked at with something that might have been pride. Then let us begin the real conversation. Earth is ready to stop hiding. The question is the galaxy ready to learn what we really are? The tribunal chamber fell silent once more. Every alien waited, their breath held, their minds racing. They had thought humans were nothing. They had been wrong. And now they were about to find out just how wrong they had been. 3 weeks passed after the tribunal. In that time, the galaxy changed more than it had in the previous 40 years. News of the human revelation spread from the Academy to every corner of known space. Governments debated. Military leaders argued. Scientists demanded access to human test subjects. Ordinary citizens watched the security footage of catching a plasma bolt and asked themselves the same question: what else had humans been hiding? Earth's provisional status was immediately revoked, not downward, as some species demanded, but upward. The Galactic Council held an emergency vote and granted humanity full membership in the Union. They had no choice. A species that could deceive them so completely for so long was clearly more capable than any Category 7 classification suggested. But the Council also demanded answers, and Director, true to her word, provided them. Not all the answers, not the full truth, but enough to satisfy the most urgent questions and enough to make the galaxy very, very nervous. Humans could run for days without rest. Humans could heal from wounds that would kill most species. Humans produced natural combat drugs that enhanced their strength and dulled their pain. Humans had spent 40 years secretly studying galactic technology, developing their own versions, and building weapons that no one knew existed. Earth was no longer the harmless little planet at the edge of known space. It was something else entirely, something dangerous, something that demanded respect. At the academy, everything changed for Park. Students who had ignored her now watched her with a mixture of fear and fascination. Some avoided her entirely, changing direction when they saw her walking through the corridors. Others sought her out, asking questions about Earth with genuine curiosity for the first time since she had arrived. The who had laughed at her in instructor class now clicked their jaws nervously whenever she passed. The hollows kept their distance, their gas bodies drifting away from her like smoke pushed by an invisible wind. Those massive stone beings who had seemed so frightening before now nodded to her with something that looked like respect. Even the teachers treated her differently. They called on her in class. They asked for her opinions. They stopped speaking about Earth as though it were a primitive backwater and started discussing it as a genuine power in the galaxy. Was not sure how she felt about any of this. One evening, a month after the attack, she sat alone in the observation deck. This was her favorite place on the station, a small room with a transparent wall that looked out into the endless blackness of space. Stars sparkled in the distance like scattered diamonds. A nearby nebula glowed purple and gold, its light painting soft colors across the floor. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see a young approaching. His name was, and he was in several of her classes. He was smaller than most of his species, with lighter shell coloring and movements that seemed more careful, more thoughtful than the other students. "May I join you?" he asked, his translator turning his clicks and whistles into understandable words. Nodded. Sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars together. "I reviewed your planet's records," finally said. "Not the galactic records, your own records, the ones your government released after the tribunal." "And what did you find?" "Your art, your music, your stories." His mandibles moved in a way that might have been thoughtful. "You have thousands of tailies about, what is the word, underdogs, weak beings who defeat the strong through cleverness and determination. You celebrate those who refuse to surrender even when victory seems impossible." Smiled faintly. "We tell those stories because we lived them, every day for thousands of years. The galaxy saw your weakness and dismissed you. The galaxy saw what we showed them, turned to face the stars again. Weakness is sometimes the best armor. We learned that lesson long before we reached space." Was quiet for a moment, processing her words. "What happens now?" he asked, "now that everyone knows what humans really are?" Considered the question carefully. She had been thinking about it constantly since the tribunal. What would Earth do now that its secret was revealed? What role would humanity play in a galaxy that had ignored them for so long? "Now," she said slowly, "we get to choose. We can stay in the shadows, watching and learning like we have for 40 years, or we can step into the light and become part of this galaxy's future." She held up her hand, the same hand that had caught a plasma bolt and healed itself in front of 300 witnesses. Earth has spent 4 decades preparing for this moment. We studied your technology. We learned your politics. We watched your wars from a distance and asked ourselves how we would fight differently, better, smarter. Her hand closed into a fist. We did not hide because we were weak. We hid because we were patient. And now that patience is about to pay off. The translator struggled with his next words. Are humans dangerous? Yes, answered honestly. All species are dangerous when they have to be, but humans are different. We do not fight because we want to dominate or control. We fight because we refuse to give up. We fight because surrendering is not in our nature. We will keep going, keep trying, keep surviving long after anyone else would have stopped. She turned to look at the young. Does that frighten you? Thought about it carefully. No, he finally said. I think it gives me hope. Hope. The galaxy has been at peace for a long time, but peace built on fear is not real peace. The strong control the weak, and the weak obey because they have no choice. His mandibles clicked slowly. Maybe humans will change that. Maybe a species that values determination over strength, survival over dominance, will show the galaxy a different way. Had never thought about it like that before. She had always seen Earth's deception as a survival strategy, a way to avoid being used or destroyed by more powerful species, but was suggesting something else, something bigger. Maybe humans were not just survivors. Maybe they were examples. The door to the observation deck opened again, turned to see walking toward her. The diplomatic representative looked different than he had at the tribunal, more confident, less nervous. Behind him walked 2 other humans, young men in academy uniforms who did not recognize. These are Lee, and said. They arrived yesterday from Earth, the first wave of new applications. Stood up surprised. New applications. Earth's government has decided to expand our presence at the Academy, smiled slightly. They believe it is time for humanity to stop hiding in the shadows. These are the first of many. And nodded to with respect. They were young, strong, and confident, the kind of humans that Earth had kept hidden from the galaxy for 40 years. There will be more coming, continued. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, diplomats. Earth is ready to take its place in the galaxy, and he looked directly at showed them that we are ready. Did not know what to say. She had never planned to be a symbol, a pioneer, a reason for her entire species to step out of the shadows. She had just been a student who saw an assassin and refused to let her teacher die. But maybe that was the point. Maybe that was what made humans different. They did not plan to become heroes. They just acted when action was needed and dealt with the consequences later. She looked then at the 2 new human students. She looked out at the stars, at the galaxy that had dismissed her species as weak and forgettable. The galaxy made a calculation about humanity, she said quietly. They looked at our soft bodies and short lives and decided we were nothing special. They put us in the lowest category and forgot about us. She stepped toward the transparent wall, her reflection looking back at her against the backdrop of infinite space. It is time to update that calculation. Far below the observation deck, in the Academy's administrative offices, a computer terminal displayed a list of pending enrollment applications. The number had been climbing steadily for days. New applicants from Earth, 347 and counting. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once. It would not make that mistake again. Park stood among the stars and smiled. Whatever came next, she was ready. Humanity was just getting started.